Teofimo Lopez versus Shakur Stevenson. The Ring 6, January 31st. Click the link in the description to buy now and get 5% off the pay-per-view when you enter this code at checkout.
Andrew McCART, IFLTV. Again, I always say it, but I'm always delighted to be joined by Mr. Dan Rafael. Dan, huge fight week out in New York. Man, I've seen the weather out there. I mean, the UK gets bad rap for having bad weather, but New York is taking the biscuit for this one.
Listen, I got about 8 inches of snow in my neighborhood and all that. It's kind of been a mess. I live in Virginia. We don't get intense winters, but we do get some snow. I grew up in upstate New York. I know what it's all about. Not a big deal. They're resilient people up there. They'll deal with it. The only thing that sucks is that a lot of times these big fights, you have like festive things that are kind of people hang out outside before the fight, or, you have a lot of people that gather around. It's obviously not going to be like that because it's so damn cold, but they'll get over it.
Definitely. Well, the fight itself is Teofimo Lopez against Shakur Stevenson. Now, we touched on it briefly last week, but let's talk about it in depth. Teo's moving up. Teo's got bad hands. Can he put a dent in a bigger man like Teofimo Lopez? There's a lot of.
Well, you mean Shakur is the one that's moving up, right?
Yeah, Shakur. Did I say Teo?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
Shakur. Sorry. So Shakur's moving up. We know about his hands as well. Can he put a dent in Teofimo Lopez? Will he be able to keep Teo off him? Because Teo can fight on the front foot over that front knee. So the question is, can Shakur at the heavier weight put a dent in Teofimo Lopez?
I don't think the weight has too much of an impact on this fight. They look about the same size. Teofimo, started as a lightweight. He obviously has developed into a top-level junior welterweight. But the thing about him is he hasn't really shown any punching power as a junior welterweight. When he was at 135, when he was champion, and even before he was champion, he was knocking a lot of guys out. But as a 140-pounder, the knockouts have been extremely rare. I mean, he's knocking out he's not even knocking out the journeyman type opponents for the most part. I think he only has literally one stoppage since he's been at that weight class. That was the very first fight he had against a journeyman opponent. It's got to go back to 2022, I guess, against Pedro Campa. All of the rest of his fights in the division, including against people like Josh Taylor when he won the title and Arnold Barboza in his most recent fight, they've all been distance fights. So punching power wise, I don't think that Shakur's got a lot to necessarily worry about. You don't want to get it clean, of course, but whatever weight they are, Shakur's got among the best defense in the entire sport. So he relies on that. So can he handle Teofimo? Absolutely. But likewise, Teofimo is an outstanding fighter himself, but Shakur has shown his ability to deal with a lot of different styles through his career. He's fought quality opposition throughout his career. And there's a reason why he's the favorite, even though he's the so-called smaller guy going up in weight.
Does the Teofimo Lopez that beat Lomachenko, does that Teo beat Shakur, being at the both sides?
Very possibly. And while that was a great performance in terms of getting the job done against Lomachenko, who was a heavy favorite, if you watch the fight, and I'm not going to take away from Teofimo's accomplishment, but the reality was that was Lomachenko, who did absolutely nothing for like the first 4 or 5 rounds of the fight. And when he finally decided to get into it and fight in the last handful of rounds, he was taking it to Teofimo. He was winning those late rounds. So Teofimo, could have let it maybe get away from him if Loma had started a little bit more quickly. So while you got to give him credit for winning the fight, a lot of the reason why he won that fight was obviously what he did, but a lot of it was also because of what Loma didn't do. Mm-hmm. If he had just started even a couple rounds earlier, he probably would have won the fight close. But the reason I'm saying this, because you said, can Shakur, beat that version of Teofimo? Yeah, of course. If Teofimo comes out and gives away the first, Shakur's not going to come out and give away, 4 or 5 rounds the way Lomachenko did. Shakur's look, they're both really good fighters. I believe that Shakur is a much trickier puzzle to solve, is the point.
Yeah. So that's the good way to put it. But both fighters do come with a little bit of flair. They do come a little bit of showboating. That being said, what type of fight do you see? Do you see it being one of those null and void fights, or do you see it being an action-packed, maybe not a fight of the year, but a good fight where we can go, that was a cracking fight between 2 elite fighters?
No, because that's not Shakur's game. Shakur's been a professional for He's had 24 professional fights. He doesn't. This is not. I'm not. This is not a negative. He doesn't get in quote unquote crackers. If he gets in those types of fights, it's bad for him. So can he be entertaining? Yes. Watch the Williams Zepeda fight. That was a tremendous fight. Really good, exciting fight to watch. But it wasn't a war. He doesn't allow a war. He knows he's too smart to get into a war. And by the way, other than like maybe the Kambosos fight, and part of that was because Teofimo, had kind of no choice because he was so physically compromised with the ailments going into that fight. Tell me a war that Teofimo Lopez has been in. The Josh Taylor fight wasn't a war. The Loma fight sure as heck wasn't a war. Other fights he's had, when he won the title the first time against Comey, it wasn't a war because he blitzed him in like 2 rounds. So anybody that goes into this fight thinking it's the fight of the year in terms of the action is just not being true to themselves as far as what they bring to the table. Now, if somehow it develops into that, I mean, good for us, I guess. But I go into this fight thinking we're going to see a high-class match between 2 skilled boxers who can mix it up at times and have some moments of excitement and some stretches of excitement. But I believe this is much more sweet science than caveman.
Yeah. Shakur Stevenson aiming to be a 4-weight world champion. Does he crack that top? I know I know Crawford's retired, but you can argue it's probably Bam Rodriguez, Inoue, and Usyk, pound for pound top 3. But does Shakur crack that? Does he get into the top 3, maybe top 4 if he becomes a 4-weight world champion beating Teo?
Well, the guys you mentioned as far as top 3, because now, like you said, Crawford's retired, so you're really talking probably about certainly Usyk and Inoue, and I think Bam is making his case there. And then you have to also, give respect to guys like Bivol. So I think absolutely, whether it's Shakur or Teofimo, whoever is the winner of this fight is going to put themselves in a position where if people start to publish or, write about or post or talk about their pound for pound list post this fight, assuming that the guy that wins is the rightful winner in the view of most people. And it's, not like, it's a decent fight and all that. Certainly the winner is going to position himself. I don't know about top 3, but, top 5, top 6. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, why wouldn't they? They'll have one, another big fight against another quality name. Certainly Lopez will be able to say, not only did I beat Loma, did I beat Shakur Stevenson, I beat Josh Taylor. He's got some other solid wins on his record too. And Shakur maybe doesn't have the level of one individual win that's on the level of like a Loma type fight, but Shakur has put together some impressive performances against some really good fighters. The way he beat Zepeda, for example, who was kind of the boogeyman, the way he went and just completely took apart the still prime Oscar Valdez when they met to unify their titles at 130 pounds. So the winner of this fight absolutely will deserve merit, based on merit, to be in that top, let's call it top half dozen of the elite fighters in the sport.
The card's actually quite an all right card, I suppose, as well. But you got Carlos Adames and Austin Williams, you got Keyshawn Davis, Bruce Carrington, and I don't know how I didn't know this, or I must have slipped. I just checked BoxRec this afternoon, and Jarrell Miller's on the card as well. I didn't even know that. I didn't know Jarrell Miller was on the card as well against Ebe. I'm pretty sure I've seen Ebe before in Vegas. Has he not fought? He's fought out in the US quite a bit, has he not?
Yeah, I think you're probably
Anderson, in fact, was it? Did he not fight Jared? Yeah,
he fought Jared Anderson, and if I'm not mistaken, ever since that fight, he's gone on a pretty good winning streak, although not against top contender type opponents. So as a early undercard fight, let's say, Jarrell Miller, it's always good to have the heavyweights on a card like this. He's a New Yorker, so he does have some fans that may turn out for him. He's coming off of I think his last fight was I'm not sure when the last time he fought. Was it the Andy Ruiz draw? Yeah, he fought the draw on the Terrence Crawford Madrimov card back. That was in like the August of 24. So he's been off like a year and a half, coming off like a year and a half layoff since that fight. It's crazy too, because they put on, when Andy and Miller fought that fight in Los Angeles, they put on a really good fight. It was a draw, a really close fight, and neither one of them has fought since then. So now Miller's trying to get back in the groove and see if he can do something. He's still got a good record. He's still got a big personality, and he's fighting on an undercard where, like I said, it's always good to have a nice heavyweight fight on any kind of big show.
You mentioned heavyweights and Jarrell Miller being a heavyweight and having a long time out the ring. The big man Tyson Fury, we touched on it, and I liked your quote when you said Tyson Fury retires like most people change their socks. But he has a date. 11th of April, against Arslanbek Makhmudov. Now we've seen Makhmudov out in Saudi Arabia for a couple of fights.
Yep.
And we've also seen him here in the UK against Dave Allen. good opponent, right opponent for Tyson Fury's comeback?
Well, I mean, if the premise is Fury has lost 2 fights in a row, Fury's been out of the ring since the ended, late 2024, which was the last time he had, the second fight against Alexander Usyk. So he's been off of a little bit of a layoff. And obviously, they may not have divulged it to the public or to the media, but certainly this is not like a one-off thing. I guarantee you that Netflix did not go and spend a lot of money to buy a Tyson Fury fight against a regular opponent if they don't have some type of agreement where they're going to get the big one. So I think it's not an unreasonable speculation to think that if he does take care of Makhmudov, which he probably should, given Makhmudov, utter lack of a chin when he stepped up against better fighters, that when the time comes, and eventually we're going to see Joshua against Fury. In no way, shape, or form would it surprise me if that is going to be a big mega event on Netflix. It is exactly the kind of fight that Netflix wants to do at the top level. It's same type of thing when they did a big mega fight like Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Crawford. It's a real boxing match, and yeah, of course they can still get involved with some of the kind of more circus type fights that they know will draw a big audience in, like a Mike Tyson against a Jake Paul. They're not. I don't believe they're just doing Tyson Fury against some random third tier type heavyweight just because Tyson Fury is a nice guy and cracks a few funny jokes. They have a plan, and frankly, if it's what I think it is, then it's good, because that means you have another player in the sport, maybe not going to be doing it on the same regular basis every week or whatever, the way we see on DAZN, which they have their important role in the sport as well. But if we can get 3 or 4 big events a year on a Netflix platform, that's a beautiful thing, because mainly it doesn't cost extra. If you already subscribe, like 320 million some people do around the world, and they bring to you a fight the caliber of a Crawford and Canelo, which of course in a non-Netflix era is a pay-per-view, obviously, and same thing with the Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. I mean, just think about the exposure in the UK. Netflix is in the UK. How many people will watch that? I mean, they would watch it if it was on, like Sky Box Office or on DAZN pay-per-view or whatever. But on Netflix, good Lord, it could do crazy numbers in Britain. And certainly, Netflix will take its opportunities to try to build certain markets. And a fight like that, you can build it in the British market, but you also know you're going to get a lot of viewers, in all kinds of other places around the world that will tune in for, a big-time heavyweight fight. It may not be for the heavyweight title, but these are 2 guys that are so established and so well known to the boxing public and have such long resumes and stories and histories. I mean, if there was a title involved, that's fine. But if there's not, I don't think anybody cares. So anyway, to the original point of your question, is it a good opponent? It's the right opponent, because it's not a one-off. They're looking to set up something much, much bigger. And, considering the layoff, Makhmudov comes in, he looks the part, big, strong guy, kind of mean looking, good record. But the guys, when he's stepped up, he's lost. I mean, he got wiped out by, he beat David Allen, but that was considered an upset. I mean, I know David Allen's a popular figure in the UK, but I pretty much expected that he would win that fight, Makhmudov. But when he stepped up even a little bit against Cabiel, he was the underdog. Cabiel was the underdog, and he wiped him out. And then even against Guido Vianello, who went to his home, he's from Russia, but he lives in Montreal area in Quebec, and he stopped him in the 8th round. And Vianello has not been a world beater. I mean, he's lost at times when he stepped up against the best guys, or even like the journeyman when he did lose one fight on cuts. Yeah, it's the right fight.
Makhmudov, obviously, you mentioned them losses there, and you mentioned Netflix. Is this their way of making a play into the boxing game? Now, we've seen them do the Mike Tyson, we've seen them do the sort of circus fights, like you said, or the mega fight in a Crawford and Canelo. But is this a play from them to put on these sort of bigger, more and more boxing events, so to speak? Like, because Tyson Fury, Makhmudov, it's a Tyson Fury's return, but
Right.
It's not a Crawford Canelo. It's not a Mike Tyson Jake Paul. It's not the circus act that we if you want to call it. So is this Netflix making a play in the boxing game?
I mean, it's yes, to make the answer short. I think that they want to do. I don't think we're going to see necessarily like a monthly series or a weekly series, but a few notable events a year where it makes sense for them. They believe they can draw in their viewers. They have a popular reality show that they're working on with Tyson Fury. I think they're going into their second season of that show. When they announced that they were going to be doing this fight, they also made the point that besides the reality show they do with him and his family, they're doing like a full-length feature documentary about Tyson's life and career. And obviously he's a very compelling figure and has an amazing story, you know, when you take into totality everything he's overcome and all the achievements he has had. And this is just kind of, it goes along with, they want to be in business with Tyson Fury. He's a bigger than life figure. He has a huge fan base, some who love him, some who hate him, but they pay attention. And, you know, we know he's in the twilight of his career. Someday the retirement will be real. It's not right now. He's come out of the, you know, yet another retirement. And at the end of when it's all said and done, we'll see him against Makhmudov. And I have to believe, you know, once Anthony Joshua has dealt with what he needs to deal with on a personal level, whatever he's dealing with in terms of the injuries he sustained in the car accident, you know, the mental aspect of trying to, you know, deal with the death of his friends, you know, as Eddie Hearn has spoken about over the last, you know, week or so when he was in Vegas doing his show last week. You know, we're all giving Anthony Joshua his time. You know, when he wants to come back, he'll let us know. But he'll be back, and, you know, we're on his clock. But Anthony is a smart guy in terms of his boxing. He knows what's up. He wants to fight against Fury. So give him his time, and, you know, we'll reconvene. And I would assume, I would bet that we'll see Fury do his thing. If he beats Makhmudov, we'll end up seeing the Joshua fight in the fall. And as I said when we started discussing the topic, I'm pretty sure it's going to wind up being on Netflix. And people say, well, doesn't Anthony Joshua have some kind of agreement with DAZN? Well, yeah, he had an agreement with DAZN, and DAZN got paid a lot of money to let him out for the one fight against Jake Paul. And there's a lot of ways to work out deals. Maybe DAZN has some rights to a fight. Maybe they get to show a replay. Who the heck knows? But for the sake of the sport, frankly, if it wound up on Netflix, that'd be a great thing. Not that it's bad if it's on DAZN, but Netflix is just more accessible to the masses.
Definitely. And again, a year and a half out of the ring for Tyson Fury, coming off 2 losses. Does he get... And we've seen with these Saudi shows and putting on these big events with these big heavyweights that there's been that sort of, oh, you win this fight, then that's the fight we're going to make. But there's been banana skins. They've slipped up. They've lost. Like Wilder lost against Joseph Parker, Zhang and Parker. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like we're looking too far ahead. Now, are we looking too far ahead? Is this still a sticky test, or do you think Tyson Fury, as good as he is, he can take that year and a half off and get the job done against somebody who's a little bit more rigid than Makhmudov?
Listen, it's prize fighting. There's always a danger when you got a big, strong guy throwing a punch at your head. And, you know, while Makhmudov certainly has, you know, not top-level skills, one thing he does possess is big punching power. And, you know, we've seen Tyson Fury on the canvas numerous times in his career. I don't know the number, but it's quite a few.
He's got up.
It's a lot. So, but every time you step in between those ropes and the bell goes, you take a risk. And that's part of what draws in the crowd to see what's going to happen. But if you take a look from the larger picture, you say, okay, he lost 2 fights in a row. He's been off for a year and a half. That's true. But it's not like he lost, to a bum. He didn't get knocked out. He lost 2 great fights that were highly competitive against a guy that a lot of people think is literally the best fighter in boxing and a future Hall of Famer and, you know, one of the all-time greats in Alexander Usyk. And it was extremely close in the first fight. Second fight was also very close. So, you know, there are things that are like, yeah, okay, 2 losses in a row, but those are forgivable losses. I mean, you lost like, you know, a great fighter. It's not like he didn't compete. Makhmudov is not exactly an Alexander Usyk clone, totally different, you know, going to be standing right in front of Tyson Fury. So I think it's there's never such thing as a safe tune-up, I don't think. But, you know, and by the way, if you're going to extract a lot of money from a Netflix, you got to give them something. You got to give them where there's the possibility that the other guy might do something. And Makhmudov, like I said, he's a big, strong guy who can crack. He's got some confidence coming off a big win. The fight, they did say, while they didn't mention the exact location where the Fury return will take place, it did specify that it will take place in the UK. So once again, Makhmudov will be on the road. Fury will have, you know, the British homecoming. He hasn't fought there since his fight against Chisora at Tottenham Hotspur. So he's going to come on the road again. And I think he's, you know, Makhmudov's got a little bit of a bigger profile now in the UK because of the fact that he went there and did what he did in the David Allen fight. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons.
A quick one from me then, Dan. Zuffa Boxing had their first show. Now, I do want to get your opinion on this. Before we talk about that, I do want to get your opinion on Eddie Hearn's comments saying that it was kind of flat. He said that if you're going to put on a show and announce yourself to the game of boxing, to boxing, then you need to come out the gates fast. And he just thinks that it was a very, very flat production and fights and the likes. I'm paraphrasing here. I don't know exactly what he says, but just your thoughts on that before we get your thoughts on the fight itself, the card itself.
Well, I thought the production was fine. I mean, I thought it was pretty good actually. But they're starting a new thing, so nothing's gonna be perfect on the first try. I'll give Dana White credit for in his post-fight comments when he did an interview on the broadcast. Said, look, or I should say it was on the broadcast. I watched his post-fight news conference, and he was saying like we had some good fights, but there's some work to be done, and he's right about that. It wasn't perfect, and it's they got to work a few kinks out. Obviously, one good thing about it was that once the pre-fight stuff was over, the pre-show, once they actually went to the actual boxing matches, they had 3 fights on the main card, and they were able to not spend a lot of time jibber jabbering in between fights, and they pretty much kept it going on a pretty good clip. So that I liked. The atmosphere was not great. It's in the Apex. It doesn't hold a lot of people. They didn't have a big raucous crowd. I mean, that it is what it is. The Apex is going to be the home for a lot of their smaller fights. They've got one coming up. They got 2 more shows on the schedule that are going to be in February that are both going to be at that same location. But anytime you're going to adjust to something new, and this is a whole new thing, like we can certainly pick apart the first show, but I'm not going to sit here and make like an overarching statement about what the product is after one show. I just don't think, and I wouldn't do that if it was Matchroom or any other promoter doing, if they were moving to a new broadcaster or creating a new type of situation. You give it a little bit of time. Dana was saying like judges after the first year. I'm not sure I'm willing to wait the entire year, but you know what? I'm going to give them. Again, not that anybody maybe gives a shit what I have to say about it, but in my own mind, I'm like, I'm not going to go and make any kind of crazy statements about it. I'm going to watch the first, 2 or 3, 4 shows, and I'm going to see what we're at. Now, one of the things also I think is, it was sort of a soft launch. It didn't have a ton of publicity. It didn't have a mountain of promotion the way they did when they kicked off their UFC contract with Paramount Plus the next night. Obviously, that was a big show for them. I think part of the reason is that they can't do exactly the way they want to do it just yet. Because in the United States, they're still waiting for the legislation that's going to amend the Muhammad Ali Reform Act to wind its way through Congress and get signed into law by the president. And until that happens, there are still certain things that I know they want to do that they have not yet been able to implement. So for the first couple of 3 or 4, however long it's going to take, we're going to see those types of broadcasts. Now, the first card was the preliminaries were very solid. I have to say they did a good job with the matchmaking. The opening fight on the main card, which was the Kane Sandoval, Julian Hammer Hands Rodriguez, was a terrific fight. I don't care what promotion's doing it. That was a hell of a fight. Second fight was a complete mismatch with Rodriguez, the Olympian who was in with a guy that just didn't have any business being in the ring with him. And in the main event, my opinion is it probably shouldn't have been the main event, but I guess I understand that they have Callum Walsh as sort of like one of their poster children, if you will. Mm-hmm. And that was a boring fight. Let's just be honest. I mean, I don't care whether you love Zuffa or hate Zuffa or whatever your point of view is. You still got to be real if it's a good fight or not. And it just wasn't a good fight. The styles didn't match up and just wasn't exciting. That said, the card they've got coming up, they've got better fights, at least on paper anyway, for the next couple of shows of fights I've seen. So, again, work in progress. I mean, my hair's not on fire because the first show had some good and some bad. It is what it is.
I'm glad you mentioned the Ali Act there. And now, I don't know where, I've not spoke to you about this, but Dana's come out and said that he's not taking anything out of it. He's just adding to it. But you've been in the game long enough. You understand the Muhammad Ali Act. What's your thoughts on it? Do you agree with it? The fact that it's going to go through Congress, get signed by the president and allow Zuffa to do what they need to do? What's your thoughts?
All I know is if you're a boxer, the onus is on you and your representatives to make sure you are comfortable with the new rules of the road are going to be if you're going to join their company. For some people, it will be a good thing. For guys that are not the top guys, but they know they can make a living and have certain purse levels that they're going to be at and certain number of fights that they're going to be offered. But you got to read the fine print, and it's not going to be for everybody. For some guys, it's going to be just fine. But I feel like the Ali Act was created for a reason. which was to generally protect fighters, to make sure there's a firewall between their side and the promoter. If the UFC people who are running Zuffa are allowed to now operate it the way they do the UFC, which is to basically roll everything up together, the regulator, the rankings, the title, the matchmaking, management, promotion, all the businesses all together, you can see why that may not be the best for the boxer. But for some guys, it's going to work. But they are taking, even if they don't change a word of the existing Ali Act, they're kind of hollowing it out from the inside, because any other promoter now would be able to do the same sort of thing if they so desire. To me, I'm interested to see how it's going to play out. I have no doubt that it's going to be signed into law, and they're going to have a Zuffa title, and they're going to have exclusivity with a certain group of fighters who are not going to be able to fight fighters from other promotions. So Eddie Hearn and Golden Boy or Top Rank or PBC or Salida Promotions, or pick your promoter, they can all go ahead and make deals with whoever they want, and they've done that plenty of times when it makes sense. Zuffa's not going to play with the other promoters generally. Now, for the time being, they're going to recognize other titles. That's why they signed, or not why they signed, but if you're going to sign a Jai Opetaia like they did, they've told him you're going to be able, if you want to defend your IBF title. They're not going to be able to ignore the sanctioning bodies, because when you sign that guy and he goes and he makes a video, and the first thing that Jai Opetaia says in the video is his dream is to unify the titles and become undisputed. Well, you can't do that if you're not able to fight for the other organizations. So clearly that was a conversation that was taking place between Zuffa's people and the Opetaia team beforehand. So they're going to make exceptions, I think. If they sign an Usyk, for example, which has been rumbles about it, they've signed Opetaia. Keep in mind, those two fighters I just mentioned both have the Ring Magazine championships. The Ring Magazine championships are owned by Turki Al-Sheikh, who is a partner in Zuffa Boxing. There's a lot of stuff going on, but it's going to take some time to play out, and nothing will surprise me. Like I said, though, most importantly, for some fighters, the Zuffa Boxing is going to be a wonderful thing for their careers, and for other guys, it may not work out so well. But that's the world, baby. That's what we live in.
Exactly that, Dan. Now, the only thing I can think positive about the Zuffa thing is that I do enjoy a rivalry. I do enjoy back and forths, and I like the back and forths between Eddie Hearn and Dana White. If anything, we're going to have a laugh along the way. As much as the Muhammad Ali Act and this, that, and the next thing, I think we're with them two going at each other, it's going to be fun, fun at least.
I mean, I know some people are amused by that. I'm totally. It's not just about Dana and Eddie. It's promoters talking shit with each other. That's just a product of having been doing this for a long time. Remember, I covered a lot of back and forth bullshit between Don King and Bob Arum. I've been there, done that. So nothing that's going to go on between Eddie and Dana is new to me. I watched all those years of the so-called Cold War between Top Rank and Golden Boy, and I've seen Oscar and Eddie go at each other. I mean, to me, I don't really care about that shit. To me, it's more, it's fine for some people. You like it once in a while. It's kind of funny, but my focus is more on the actual fights and the fighters, to be honest.
I agree, but I do enjoy a little bit of laughter, a little bit of fun.
That's cool.
Yeah, I do enjoy that. Dan, as always, I know you've got to run. I know you've got a busy day ahead of you, so I do appreciate you taking this time out to speak to me. As always, enjoy the fights at the weekend. I'm sure you'll be watching Josh Kelly fight up against Murtaza Aliyev as well. We haven't got time to speak about that. I'm sorry, but yeah, and Shakur Stevenson, Teo. So enjoy the fights this weekend.
I'm also going to be watching Xander Zayas' unification with Abbas Barua. There's a big weekend that we got going on.
That's Top Rank. Yeah, damn, I forgot about that one. There you go then. I'm so caught up in Josh Kelly's world title fight here in the UK. But listen, Dan, as always, your stuff, everything they can find you on, your podcast, Fight Freaks Unite, everything link is in at the bottom of this interview on the description box. Dan, as always, have a great day, and I'll speak to you very, very soon, my friend.
I appreciate it. Enjoy the show up there.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. Speak to you soon.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Teofimo Lopez versus Shakur Stevenson. The Ring 6, January 31st. Click the link in the description to buy now and get 5% off the pay-per-view when you enter this code at checkout.